Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joshua from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm the program manager for ANDE West Africa. Please, let's do a quick check-in. If you can hear me, please, can you just probably raise your hand or use the smiley? So I want to be sure you can hear me. Great. So while you're typing that, I want everyone to actually type your name in the chat box at the organization you work for, and of course, where you are currently based in the chat box, so we can know everyone on this call. And while we're doing that, we'll give another 2 minutes for other participants to join this call, while Olatunji will take over from there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joshua. While we are doing that, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Olatunji, I'm the West Africa manager. If you can also please go to your name on the Zoom and then write your name and then your organization. If you can check my own, Olatunji ANDE West Africa chapter manager. So if you can edit your name on Zoom, on your Zoom tag, that would be very helpful. Just take the cursor to the side of, if you click on, I think it will appear on your side. If you click on the participant, you'll be the first person. Then you click on over your cursor on the name, you will see more. Then on the more, you click on rename. Then you can type your name, your organization, and then maybe your role, so that we can have idea of everybody that is on the call. Thank you so much. So we'll give like another 2 minutes just for people to join. But I hope we are all doing very well today. Just try and settle in. While we are waiting, you can also take a small piece of paper, hold it by your side, and with a pen, just write down what you are expecting to get out of the meeting today. While you are here, ask yourself, what's the purpose? What's the intention? What do you want to get out of this? Remove every distraction as much as possible. I'm trying to keep my son engaged here to ensure that he doesn't distract me. So if you are able to get the kids engaged in something so that they don't distract me, because I know most of us are working remotely, do that. You can put your phone on silence. Okay, let's wait for another 30 seconds for people to join. It's an interesting time, you see. I'm not sure I'm effective with keeping them engaged, still making my background. Please endure if you hear some outburst of noise once in a while from my son in the background. Just bear with me, it's one of the bane of working from home. All right, okay. So let me just start with the introduction. Like I said, my name is Olatunji and I'm the West African manager for ANDE, and we are excited to have all of you here today. Fundraising best practice is very important to us. It's one of the reasons why we came with the idea is the fact that we know that this is an important time where everybody's trying to ensure that their organization is well funded, that we don't run out of funding in this trying time. And we felt it might be important to create a platform and opportunity for members to support one another, learn from one another how you're raising funds. It is a time to hold each other's hand and work together to be able to ensure that we have enough resource to keep our very important work going. Last week, we had the first part of the fundraising best practice. and we had the Open Capital Advisor, and they were very helpful in laying like the overall grand overview of what the best practice as a process for fundraising is. Some of the key things that I learned from that session last week was the fact that fundraising is like dating. It's like a dating process. So you have to be patient. You have to know that the people you are talking to, that you're trying to raise funds for, you have to find a way that you have to ensure that it's a fit between your organization and the organization. You have to be ready for due diligence. Due diligence is one of the things that takes time. And Flora is also going to re-emphasize that today as she shared the process that ANDE used and that in fundraising. So it's important to have a folder for due diligence where you keep all the information that funders might likely ask of you when the time comes, so that you don't spend a long time trying to overcome that. I've had practical experience where due diligence delay particular funding that we're expecting from a funder for almost 8 months, and we couldn't start a project because we had to keep going back and forth on the time, on the due diligence to ensure that everything aligns properly. And the process is similar, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an intermediary or you're even investment firm yourself. The process is practically similar. You start with finding the organization that is best fit for you. You introduce yourself to them. You have initial meetings. You share concept paper, and then the process is similar. I don't want to go over all the presentation again that we had last week. And again, why do we decide to do this? We decided to do this because one of the practical example, one of the things we discovered last year, we had some catalyst fund that was released by ANDE, and we saw that very few organizations from West Africa applied for it. And then also we've had some funding opportunities that some funders say they find it hard to be able to have quality proposal that can fit into what they are looking for. So we felt it might just make sense. There are some members that are doing very well in fundraising, while some members are still also trying to ensure that they get the process right. And the essence of ANDE as a network is to create a platform for us to support one another. And that's the primary reason why we came up with it. And also it's more important in this time of COVID that we create that opportunity, because there is very limited chance and opportunity to go meet a funder, go to fundraising events and all that. So there is more challenge in fundraising as a result of that. So having the platform to have this continuous conversation, share ideas with one another, if possible even explore collaboration, we feel we help to be able to bridge that gap in knowledge and in opportunity in fundraising for members. I'm not the speaker for today, so I'm going to try and shut up now and invite Flora to come and take it from here. Flora is our senior partnership associate, and she leads fundraising for us in Africa. We thought it would make sense to have her to come share experience of the processes that ANDE uses in fundraising, because fundraising is a process. There are tools, there are methodologies that we use, there are a process that we use in ANDE that has worked for us. And she's worked also in partnership position in other organizations that we feel that sharing that process, the behind the scene processes for fundraising, I think is going to be important. Then she manages the fundraising bulletin for ANDE, and we felt it's important for her to also share some opportunities, upcoming opportunities in fundraising that members can take advantage of at this time. So without speaking longer, again, I would like to please welcome Flora to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Olatunji. Hello, everyone. I am Flora BREAKOUT. I'm the Senior Partnerships Associate at ANDE. I was really delighted with this invitation to participate in this series of workshops on fundraising best practices. As Olatunji mentioned, I am co-lead of all things fundraising at ANDE, globally and regionally, supporting the 8 regional chapters in Latin America and Africa and Asia. And prior to joining ANDE, which was last year, so I'm just about to come up to my 1-year anniversary, I was at a local accelerator here in Brazil where I'm based, also with a fundraising commercial hat on. So I have had 4 years of experience fundraising from a regional perspective, from a regional organization that was an accelerator, an intermediary, and also an ANDE member. And now I'm having this opportunity and experience to fundraise more globally, but also with the all 8 regional focuses where ANDE is based. So my objective for today, understanding that you guys already had that first workshop with Open Capital Advisors on a lot of the strategy and mindset around fundraising. My idea is to bring very hands-on practical knowledge. So basically things that I think are either A, super important, or B, could be shortcuts and could save you some time. And things that sometimes I have learned more recently and that I wish I knew earlier. So that is what I hope to share with you today. So let me just go ahead and share my screen so I can start the presentation. Can you guys hear me well and see my screen?
Loud and clear.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So I'll run through this really quickly because Olatunji already sort of talked through the agenda, but he already gave the intro and recap of the last session. Now I'm going to go into the fundraising best practices with a hands-on approach. We'll hear later from Anna from NBC Africa on her firsthand fundraising experience. Then we'll go into breakout sessions and have some time for feedback and Q&A at the end. So feel free to send questions on the chat as I present, but we'll also have time to discuss as a group and then come back and rejoin. So I thought of just starting with very basics to fundraising. And then again, I want to speak from my experience. So I don't want to give this as the end all be all of fundraising, but this is what has worked for me. So there are 3 basic things to fundraising that I wanted to share. One is to have a clear vision, to build relationships, and to not waste your time. And I'm gonna go through all of these and break it down. So when I say have a clear vision, the first thing is to understand your unique value proposition. And this is something that was really sort of hammered on for me when I was working at the accelerator, working with startups. So I feel like sometimes we forget as intermediaries or as nonprofit organizations that we also have to have that almost quote unquote business mindset of understanding what is the perception of value of what I do by that funder. Sometimes we take things as sort of unquestionable truth, or we do things because that's just the way that we do things, but you have to constantly see yourself through the eyes of whoever it is that you're trying to convince. So understand their language, understand what they're looking for. And this is both on an individual level and institutional level. So on the institutional level is how do you fit into funder priorities? And this can also be understood by just do your homework, right? Look up their website, look the language that they use, look what they have put out in terms of strategy, but also I often look at the news and see what they have done most recently. Because sometimes they just haven't updated their strategy, or attend events that these people are attending and listen to them. And then understand what you really need as well. So be really true to yourself and understand, is this project strategic to me right now? In addition to whatever monetary value that I'm looking at, do I want to do this? And if you build a pipeline, you won't have to say yes to everything. You shouldn't. Build relationships. It's all about thinking the long term. So I guess as Olatunji said, and as Open Capital Advisors said in the previous session, it's like dating. So you don't want to rush things. You want to get to know each other. You want to be open and honest. So this is something actually that I wish I knew earlier, and something that I learned when I joined ANDE, actually, that donors appreciate when you say, I don't know the answer to this question, or I don't know how to do that yet, and this is why I want your help. Not only your money, right? Not only your grant or whatever modality of funding it is, but I want to pick your brain. I want you as a strategic partner, and be open about what you don't know yet, but what you want to do together, accomplish together. And be a resource. This is about being generous. So don't be transactional. Don't only talk to funders when you want something from them. If you can be a resource, especially locally for global funders that have more centralized structures, right? Probably they don't have people on the ground, or if they do, they have a very limited staff. Share knowledge. Say, hey, I read this, I thought of you. Be active on LinkedIn or on Twitter or whatever platform that you use. Make connections. Say, hey, I met someone that I think might help you with this other project that has absolutely nothing to do with me, but you're a resource to them, so you become trusted. And finally, don't waste your time. So yes, spend time evaluating opportunities. That is time worth spending, but also learn to say no. And again, if you build that pipeline, you won't have to say yes to everything, and you really shouldn't. So don't waste your time on opportunities that are not going to be worth it in the long term. So what about that pipeline? The pipeline that I use, and I think that it's pretty traditional, is, so I'm going to just go through the steps, right? It's identification, cultivation, the concept note, the full proposal, the due diligence review, and contracting. So identification, you're basically doing your desk research, or you met someone at an event, you read something on the news or in a newsletter, like our fundraising bulletin, and you plug that into your pipeline as identification. In the cultivation stage, you're building that relationship, you're building trust, you're going back and forth and understanding their priorities, obviously also presenting your side. But a key to this is also being a good listener, right? You want to talk less, let the other person talk more, and then understand where you plug in, because probably you do a lot of things and they're not interested in everything that you do. They're interested in one thing, so you need to identify that. And then the concept note and full proposal. So if we imagine this as a pipeline, something that I've learned, at least from my experience, and I understand other people might have different experiences, and apologies for my cat in the background. Some people have children and some people have cats. So yeah, something that I've learned is that in the concept note stage, so basically it's almost like a cold call, right? You're just sending something basic to get their reaction. My success rate on these has been fairly low. So 20 to 25%. So what that means is that you don't want to spend too much time on this. Do something basic that people can react to. And then the full proposal, when you move to that, you have a much greater success rate. At ANDE, I believe it's been around 80%. So you really don't want to move to the full proposal if you don't think there is a good chance. So that's why you break it down, the proposal writing process, which is what I want to go next. So you want to start with the concept note. Now this is something that I've learned is different, at least again from my experience, what I did fundraising here locally in Brazil and what I do now at ANDE with global funders. And I wonder if it's the same for you guys. Here, it's funny, even the format, we used to do very like sophisticated, we wouldn't even call it concept note, but already like a proposal that we knew that we would go into more detail later, but it was like PowerPoint, very, very beautiful. So it took a long time to get everything, you know, super aligned, and the images, and, you know, there was a lot of extra stuff in addition to that one essence of what you're trying to pitch. At ANDE, we do the concept note, that it's basically a Word document that has a very brief introduction, probably like a 4 or 5 sentence introduction on what it is you're proposing. There's a section of background to your organization, so establishing who you are and track record, things that are relevant to that. And then you just jump into the actual proposal that tends to be, well, it varies, but say like 2 or 3 pages of a Word document. So it's very lean. It's like the essence boiled down of what you want to propose. And the concept note is a relationship builder. So it's much easier, and again, something that I've learned recently and that I wish I knew sooner, is that it's much easier for people to react to something than to create something from zero. So if you go to a funder, obviously there's going to be that point that if you don't know each other at all, you really just want to listen, see what they're doing, share a bit of what you've been doing, and see where there's synergy. But then sometimes, you know, at times I have felt stuck, right? So what's the next step? If you have a clear vision of your own organization, of what you would want to accomplish based on your strategic planning for, say, the next year or 2 years, and I feel like the longer the better, right? If you can frame this as a multi-year strategy, it's even better. Then you will have some idea of what types of concept notes, what types of services and products you feel you have a unique value proposition that you still want to do because it is worthwhile for your organization, and that you know there's a market fit with what funders are looking for with the funder strategy, full proposal, a detailed proposal. And that's a good process because you don't spend too much time on the concept note if there isn't a fit or if it's not good timing for them. You know, it gives you an opportunity to test the waters and to pivot where you want to pivot, but also not to be too flexible, and then move to the detailed proposal. And another thing that I wish I did sooner, and I'm speaking from my own experience here, but at times, being like a mid-level staff doing fundraising, you feel a bit intimidated talking to global funders, but you should be as curious about the process as possible. And this is something that they appreciate, and something that perhaps it's even, I don't know if it has to do with American culture or European culture of being very straight to the point and saying, so, you know, when is your next board meeting? How do you get this approved? Who will approve it? What is the format? So ask those questions because it will save you time and give you more clarity and give you an opportunity to prepare. You also want to measure and evaluate. So one key question that you should always ask yourself in the concept note stage is, what does success look like? What do I want to accomplish? So it's almost like a theory of change, right? It doesn't have to be very detailed, unless obviously the funder asks, but for your own purposes and for understanding what it is that you're proposing, just have that clear narrative, that clear, you know, sort of process of this will lead to this. This is our expectation at the end of 1 year or 2 years. And you also don't want to cut yourself short. So you do have to think about value for money. Often we do have to think, you know, is our structure, for instance, that involves a Global North office in DC, if they get involved, it will make things more expensive. So how do we make this lean, or is it worth for us going after a funder that has more limited resources? At times it makes sense to tackle things or approach things from a purely regional perspective, thinking of value for money. But you also want to think of your own pricing strategy. And one thing that I have noticed both in the organization that I used to be a part of and now at ANDE, when you become involved in a funder relationship and you develop that relationship and you develop that trust and confidence and that rapport, you do want to make things work, right? You do want to close that partnership. And at times it's very tempting to sort of underestimate the level of effort or hours from your team or for yourself that will be involved, because you want to close it, and you know that, you know, price is obviously a factor when funders are evaluating these. But one thing that I think it's important to highlight is don't sell yourself for sort of cheaper than what it is. Be very aware and open and honest and truthful about your true costs. Obviously, if you can do something for less, and one thing that we've been seeing in this mid or post COVID-19 world is that doing things online can be cost effective. So sure, do explore that, but also don't underestimate your hours and your team's hours. And finally, some tools and tricks. Thinking of being very hands-on with this. One is CRM software. So this is customer relationship management software. We use Salesforce. I believe that they have discounts for NGOs, but there's also a lot of other CRM softwares that are free. In where I was previously, we used to use Beatrix 24, that I think is very user-friendly, and it's free up to, I think, a relatively small number of users, but you should explore that and have your pipeline there, so you're logging not only the conversations that you're having, but also the opportunities that you're identifying, cultivating, and then where in the pipeline they are with the concept note and proposal submission. Networks, and obviously thinking of ANDE, there's a multitude of opportunities and ways that networks can support your fundraising efforts. Conferences and events, so there's obviously the ANDE annual conference coming up now in September, regional conferences, continental or chapter events like learning labs and webinars. So you do want to take advantage of those. You want to connect, you want to be seen, you want to contribute meaningfully, obviously. There's also the membership services. So we have a membership team that is at your disposal to understanding your challenges, and if you want to make connections with global organizations or organizations based in other continents that you might want to connect with. And there's also the member map online on ANDE's website. And the fundraising bulletin, so it's something that I prepare every month. It goes out with a few opportunities, open opportunities for fundraising, both global opportunities and regional opportunities. And those are also, I think, most of the time included in the chapter communications as well. And obviously you have the chapter staff to support you in all of this, like Olatunji and Joshua. As Olatunji mentioned, the due diligence review folder. This is something that saves a lot of time and a lot of headache. So do have a folder that's very handy and easy to access, where you keep not only your organization's tax forms, tax status, your audited financial statements for the last 3 years, your budget for that year, something that you can share with funders, but also sometimes having things like the list of staff, especially for senior staff, and a description of like mini bios of those people. It's something that funders often ask for and something that you should have handy. And one thing that I'm always looking at is newsletters and Google Alerts. So not only connecting to those newsletters like the Fundraising Bulletin or the global and regional newsletters that ANDE offers, but something that I used to do, especially when I was building that pipeline where I didn't have so many opportunities identified, is to set up Google Alerts. So if you're very specific about the language that you use, so say I would do grants plus, name of the country plus entrepreneurship, or grants plus name of the country plus, let's say, I don't know, energy or whatever sector you work on, that would be very helpful. I mean, obviously, a lot of times what it would pick up, it would not be relevant, but often it was. So it was a good way of finding those opportunities and also finding those channels that were not previously identified by me. But then when I saw where these were being posted, I would then subscribe to those newsletters. And finally, as Olatunji mentioned, we figured it would be helpful to close with a few open opportunities. These were in the last fundraising bulletin. I will mention them very briefly, but then I think we can share the link with you all after this. So one is the USAID COVID-19 Private Sector Engagement and Partnership Fund. So it's a $10 million fund that they just put out that has a rolling basis application process. The floor, the minimum ask is $50,000. So it's relatively low. And just for the sake of total transparency, we are also talking with USAID, and one thing that we proposed is that since, as you can imagine, and perhaps from experience, you know that the due diligence process and the application process with USAID and any governmental organization can be quite difficult, especially for smaller regional organizations. So one thing that we are exploring, but there's nothing tangible yet, is could ANDE then act almost as a funnel, right? So could we facilitate access to these funds by local organizations? The second one is the Open Roads Alliance grants for COVID-19. It's also rolling basis process, and the size of grants is $100,000 US. And finally, there's a UK government energy catalyst fund, round 8. I don't have that much details to share on that now. Obviously, it's a very sector specific opportunity. But like I said, I can share the links so that it's in the follow-up material after this workshop. Yeah, so I think with this, it's a wrap. And we will go, I don't know, Olatunji, should we take questions now or go to Anna's presentation first?
Yeah, I think we can just, let's see if there's question. If you have question, please in the next 1 minute, can you type it up, or if you can unmute yourself. I don't know confidence if that is possible, and just ask the question. And if Flora can answer, or anybody in the room also, and we've closed the room now to strangers. Anybody in the room that's also maybe has answer could answer. So does anyone have question?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Leah from Growth Africa, Ghana office. So I just wanted to find out, you have different levels of the funders that you speak to. So from the point where you start the identification, could you give us an idea of what time it takes until you close?
Yeah, that's a great question. It varies a lot. It depends heavily on the level of connection and relationship that you have with the funder already. For, let's call them cold calls, so funders that you had absolutely no contact previously, I would say, it would take somewhere from 5 to 8 months turnaround. when you have a relationship and you have had a chance to develop that, it's much quicker. In fact, one thing that I was surprised to learn joining ANDE is that the team and the leadership, they have invested so much in creating these relationships, these bonds and connections and rapport with funders, that often it's the other way around. They would come to us saying, hey, I have this challenge. Can you help me? I thought of you. Or, hey, I have this leftover budget, or I just received new budget and I want to talk to you guys. And that obviously shortens the process a lot. So hence the importance of investing in relationships, and something that often you have to convey to your senior management. I don't know if that's the case, but speaking from my experience is that yes, these things do take time. The relationship building does take time. And that's just the way it is.
Maybe I can just share a little bit of experience about my own experience at the regional level. So I have seen from the time that I identify and I build relationship, sometimes it can take as much as 1 year in the region. And that is because sometimes the person you are talking to in the region is also going to have to talk to other people, maybe at the global level, to be able to get the proposals and to pass through. So what I try to do is to invest as much as possible at the relationship level, because what that does is that the person will become a lot more transparent with me, with what their internal processes and whatever the barrier is that is, and how long it's going to take, and help me to manage my expectation. We don't have a lot of local funders, as we are grateful to Arts Foundation, who also funded this workshop. But even with Arts Foundation and being a great organization that they have a very quick turnaround. We actually took our first grant with them, took about 8 months before we finally closed. And that was not because of their own faults of theirs. It was actually because we had to align the due diligence, align the term sheet with the Aspen Institute's procedure. And so there was a lot of legal, as in back and forth with them. Like I always tell my steering committee members and the senior management that I just want to do my job. I actually don't want to bother with the lawyers' issues. But sometimes the legal issues can make it to be taken much longer than it requires. So it depends, as in at the cultivation stage, as in the relationship, for me, sometimes it takes as much as 1 year. But if the time sheet and due diligence issues comes in, it might take much longer. I hope that answers your question, Leah.
Thanks, yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Any other question? All right. I think the next thing on the agenda, I don't know if Anna is ready now. So Anna Samanke is our steering committee chair, and we felt it's important if we can get her to share experience. She has been in the region for quite a long time, and she's worked in Ghana, in Mali, in Cote d'Ivoire. So she understands the local context and the barriers that you face when you're trying to raise fund. And understand how the process works. There was a time that I talked to her about fundraising, and she said, hey, we send out 100 proposals, and we expect maybe like 10% of them to close. It's like, wow, that's a good approach. As in, if you're looking for 10, you send out 100. So she has a unique perspective about how the fundraising process works and the challenges that she has had to face, given her experience in the space. So Anna, I don't know if you're ready and if you can unmute now to share your experience of fundraising in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Olatunji. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Tenemba Anna. So those who see on the conversation portion, I sign in as Tenemba, and I'm Executive Director of MBC Africa. MBC Africa is an advisory firm that provides operational and access to finance support to SMEs but particularly to SMEs in the food industry, renewable energies, and financial inclusion. As Tenemba Anna, my background is business development and investment. So as a business development and investment professional, the last 20 years I worked, I would say I worked in the banking sector, the commercial banking. I also worked in the impact industry, investment industry for practically 15 years. And from 2018, I've been dedicating all of my time to MBC Africa. So MBC Africa is very dear to me because it started as a program, a training program for SMEs in agriculture value chains. And I monitored it as a program manager for an impact investor. And at the end of the program in 2018, I just asked them if I could take over the program and transform it into a full company, because I saw that there was a lot of opportunity. Of course, we had to work on the business model in such ways that MBC would generate revenues by itself. And that is what gives me the unique perspective, as Olatunji would say. I have been on both sides, okay? So I have been an investor, a financier. I have been LP, investing in SME funds across West and Central Africa. So as an investor in private sector, clearly I know what these investors are looking for. As a business development professional, I've also worked on the entrepreneur side. So how to get the entrepreneur to be investment ready. Everybody's talking about that investment readiness today, but there are many ways to get the business investment ready, depending on the stage of the business and depending on the sector. For example, stage, if you're very early, I would say you should, join an ecosystem, either it's incubator or accelerator. If you are a more mature company, we have what we call business clinics, where we really customize the services to the business. So I have these two perspectives, but I even have a third one. I'm an entrepreneur myself. So I've started at least 4 or 5 business ventures. 3 of them collapsed, so you should know. As any good entrepreneurs, I've failed several times and managed to get back on my feet. So I've been an investor. I provide support to entrepreneurs to help them have the right conversation with investors, but I'm an entrepreneur myself. So when we talk about fundraising, for an organization like MBC Africa, who was fully funded by grants, becoming an enterprise brings a lot of challenges, especially in fundraising. It's very different when you fundraise for grants and when you fundraise for investment, because you're talking to 2 different types of people. And as somebody was saying, it's like fundraising is like dating. So each date has its own character. Each person has its own character, has its own ways of doing things. So you can't apply the same rules or the same attitudes towards a grant funder and an investor. So I will say it that way to make the difference. And in my experience, as I told Olatunji, fundraising for grants for me is harder than talking to investors. Because I've been an investor myself, I am able to articulate better probably my conversation and build stronger relationship with investors, because I've been part of them. But fundraising for grants has been a very tedious job for me. So this is what I'm going to say. For the grant funding, it will take you, as Fiona and Olatunji say, it will take you a lot of time to build relationship. But I will go even further down the line. I would say if you don't have direct network in some of the grant funding organization, I would say that, excuse me, it's sometimes a waste of time. All the times I've succeeded in raising grant funding is that I know very well the organization and I have network, and it's rather the organization that came towards me than me going there. I don't know if you understand. I didn't go for them. They heard about us, what we're doing, and they have their own objectives, and it's, you know, it aligns, and they come towards us as a service provider, and this is how we raised the grant fundings. All the grant fundings were that way. We didn't go after them because at some point in time, it took me 2 years to understand that this process that Flora just described, concept note, it's just not something that a private sector, a business person can do, or you have a dedicated team or person that does the writing, because it takes a lot of time just to gather information on your grant funder, understanding their psychology, their philosophy, their and even doing due diligence, as some people say, looking at some of the organizations they've funded and so on and so forth. It takes time and it takes dedication. As a business manager, I do not have that luxury. So although we're a not-for-profit company at NBC Africa, we're functioning as a business. So unless it's really worth it, I will not take the time off my collaborators or my own time to put on proposal writing. So it took us 2 years to learn. So lessons learned, it took us 2 years, and we learned, and we agreed as a team that we will go there only when it's necessary. So right now, for example, you will see us writing proposal when it's for a bid. So it's a bid, and it's really a bid that is looking for private sector organizations. So we are sure that to find the type of environment we want, because that is it. What is the type of investors you want to work with? On the grant funding side, we want people that are, understand innovation, people who are flexible, practical, pragmatic, are ready to, to support you sometimes with different types of tools, not only the grants, but also probably some investment. So our favorite funder would be somebody that provides hybrid funding because of the type of work we do. Some parts of our work will be good if we had some grant funding to reduce transaction costs so we can provide affordable services to some of our target groups. So hybrid type of organization, or an organization that provides hybrid financing, an organization that is, as I said, flexible, understands innovation, and understands that business side of things. And although we target SDGs, we also want an organization that will be very practical and pragmatic in terms of reporting. So I don't want to pay somebody just for reporting on one project, because we have several projects. So it can be quickly a burden for some of the organizations. So as NBC Africa, so know what type of investors you're going to talk to. If you really want to raise a lot of grants, have a dedicated team or a dedicated person to write proposals. and just know when to quit, as we did. 2 years down the line, we said, okay, let's call it a quit and let's re-strategize. Now, on the investment side, today, MBC Africa has a special purpose vehicle called AfriCseed. It's just like, it's a name, it's like a fund, but it's not managed as a fund. We also started a She Equity. We're even doing She Equity West Africa. So now we're fundraising for investment. Again, a lot of the people we're talking to are people that have found alignment in what we're doing and came towards us. Of course, we're going towards investors, but as we are looking for a specific type of investors, the numbers are very low, and we know it's like around 10, 15 people probably we will only talk to. And out of the 10, 15, we hope that 2, 3 will come on board in the first year, and others will come after when we've. So that's why we started She Equity ourselves, and we're investing from our pockets for now. So we've invested in 2 businesses, and we're investing in the next 2 by the end of the year. But this is to show the investors, because we understand that they want to make sure you have skin in the game, to show them that we believe in what we're doing, and we're already investing in it ourselves. So come on board so we can do more. So we know how to, personally, I know how to talk to an investor in that. But as I told you, the grant funding I have, so I brought on board somebody that is more qualified and technically skilled to do the grant proposals. So that person has another position in the company, but when we have to write grants or bids, that person steps in and takes over. So
thanks,
these
Anna.
are some of the things.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask. Talked about that. At what point do you realize that you need to have a dedicated staff? Because not all organizations also have the luxury of maybe the kind of brand that you have, the kind of network that you have, or they may even have, they are probably maybe like someone like me in the region who would work for a global organization, but have to build his own network and relationship on the ground. So how do you get to that point where you know that, okay, I need to probably maybe have a dedicated staff to pursue some of these opportunities? And at what point do you realize that?
As I told you, it took us 2 years, but there are 2 ways you can do this as a small organization like MBC. You can either have a pool of consultants that are grant proposal writers. It exists. And you can have with them an understanding they are paid only when you raise the money. Sometimes it's very difficult to negotiate that because it really takes a lot of time. So you have to make sure that you're going to raise money at least 50% or I don't know, 25% of the time, because otherwise your consultant is going to be not very happy. The other way to do it is what we do, is that we have a person internally, a business development person that also has skill sets, in more skill sets than me in writing grant proposals. So that's, we just put that as part of the person's duties. That's the 2 ways you can do it as a small organization. Yeah. But when we decided, it was just after 2 years, we sent out, I can say that in 2018, we sent out at least 10, 15 proposals. And people who came back to us, like responded, you know, were like 3, 4, like responded, yes? It's not that even it went through, it's that they responded, they took time to read and come back to you. So people have to realize, and out of the 10 or 15, we only raised money with 1, because I ended up knowing somebody in that organization, and conversation came up on it. That's the reality out there. But as we restructure our business model, a good portion of our financing comes from our day-to-day work. So we generate internally revenues, that covers our operations, basic operations. And then we tend to go fundraise for specific projects. So you don't spend too much of your time on writing proposals. Out of 10 out of 10, maybe just one will become a grant.
I think
eventually, if you're lucky. Yes.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway from all the conversation that we have is getting members, particularly in the region, to realize how much work fundraising requires and the need to be able to have either a contracted or dedicated internal resource. Why you as a leader of the organization continue to build a relationship with people that are important, go for events. For bigger organizations, like for example, there is budget for traveling, as in Flora has budget to travel to go meet funders, but maybe smaller organization may not have that kind of opportunity. And even COVID doesn't allow traveling and all that now. But prioritizing relationship, as in, and to go after building relationship with people, just being valuable. I've had experience with members before that I do introductions for. And one of the things that I usually feel their fundraising staff usually get wrong is they go ahead first with sending proposal to a funder. So I send you an introduction and say, hey, I'd like you to meet Anna. Anna Samanke has $50 billion that she's trying to disburse, and the first thing you do is to send proposal to Anna and say, Anna, please give me $1 billion to do this project. And I usually tell them that it doesn't work that way. Sometimes send a mail to Anna and say, hey, Anna, you have this 50 billion you want to disburse. You have a lot of work on your neck. What can I do to help? How can we be of help? Can we help you promote this? Can we help you organize events to come and talk about this funding to people? Or can you tell me the process? Just reach out to find out and learn about what they are going through, what their challenges are, how you can be of help to them before you even talk about your own problem.
Exactly.
We've raised funds from an international funder before, and that fund came just because we just told the funder that say, oh, you are coming to the region. Okay, can we organize an event for you to talk to our members and just share about your work to them? And that was how the conversation started. And then they said, oh, we can actually fund this type of event and stuff for you. So thank you, Anna. And it's great that we are having this conversation and this workshop, roundtables, to continue to create a platform for members to learn from one another. So thank you so much, Anna. I don't know if anybody have questions for Hannah before we go into our breakout room so that we all can talk. We are all expert speakers here. My top bosses here that I know, they know 1 million times more than me, so I want to learn from them also. So any question for Anna and before we go into the breakout room? All right, you can keep the question somewhere before maybe when we come back, you can ask. So we are going to breakout room right now. And then in the breakout room, we are going to be talking about three key questions. The first question is, what's your own fundraising process in your organization? As in, what strategy are you using? And then how do you connect its funding opportunities? We talked about some of Anna shared her experience. They first started with sending out a lot of proposals and all that. It didn't work, but they changed their strategy. They focus on bid alone. What's your own? How do you connect with funding opportunity in your own organization? Then what tools or techniques are you using to interact with funder? And then what would you need to improve your fundraising process? So in each breakout room, it's going to be conversation, as in basically we have about 4 people there. You introduce yourself, and then you can start the conversation. If someone can take notes, fine, but we'll have one person in the group to just share back one key learning that they're taking away from the group or what they discuss in the group, as in with others. So confidence, are we ready to go into the group? All right, so I will see you all back in 15 minutes, I believe. Welcome back. Hope there was no much traffic on your way back from your breakout room. Hope if you're in Lagos.
Yeah, we ended up being just 3 people. Kind of weird,
Yeah.
but it was cozy.
That's good. I was gonna say if you're in Lagos, I hope last month did not stop you on your way from the
Oh my God.
from the breakout room to the main room.
Lagos,
Anyway,
even online.
Yep. Welcome back.
Interesting.
It was an interesting conversation. Also, I started also basically with Joyce, and we had very good conversation on it. So I don't know if you had someone assigned in your group to give feedback, just 1 minute feedback on what you're taking out from your group. Who wants to go first?
Hi.
All right.
I want to go first. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Joyce.
Good evening from Nigeria. In my group, we had about five of us: John, Emmanuel, Flora, Olatunji, and Sarah, and Joyce Lewis. We talked about leveraging on new network and leveraging on the current network you have and trying to expand the network you have by joining amazing organizations like ANDE and other reputable organizations that could help you reach out to your funders. And we also had a conversation about an organization that went ahead to do some free programs for a funder who turned out to be a great funder of their project so far in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So leveraging on the opportunities you have the right way and also expanding your reach to other organizations. That's actually our major take home. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Who wants to go next?
Sure, I'd be happy to go next.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, ladies first. Ladies first, please.
All right, Leah, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take it. So we were with Nachula, Mariam, and Toki. Mariam didn't get to actually finish, but I think what we got out of it is most of our organizations are pretty new to the West African region, apart from Toki and Mariam. And Mariam mentioned that the executive director is usually the one who does the fundraising, which is similar to Nachula and myself, which is Ashesi and Growth Africa. So most of the leadership are the ones charged with the fundraising. Most of the fundraising comes from Europe or the United States. So what we need is to figure out how to build our networks within West Africa, understand the ecosystem on this side of Africa, and be able to raise funds here or to raise funds from here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. So now to you, Tapiwa.
Thank you. Yeah, so we had in our group Sylvester, Olusiji, Christopher, and Joshua. Unfortunately, we didn't get too far past the introductions before the time ran out. But for the little that we were able to share, it seemed like there was quite some alignment in terms of keeping track of conversations through spreadsheets, for sure, in terms of yeah, sort of tracking where we are in the conversations with potential funders and funding opportunities. But yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get too far past that, but I thought that was worth sharing anyway, that was a commonality.
Thank you so much. Next group, I think we had 4 groups, right? Who's going next?
So I'm going to summarize quickly because apparently we were only 3, Dee, Isioma, and myself. And what comes out is that, for example, Isioma is on the receiving side of the grant funding. So she has a couple of websites that are really specialized in giving information on the resources. So I think that website is Funds for NGOs and that type of site. So she usually get good leads from there. And Dee was very helpful in sharing the perspective of a local regional funder. So at ACT Foundation, she says that more than 60% or more of their applications are from people they don't know. So So that means you always will have your chance. So you have 7 out of 10 chances to have a grant from them if you apply the normal way. But they have changed their strategies right now. So they're starting to look at people that they share, maybe visions. I mean, she could give more details, maybe. Looking at projects that are aligned with what they're doing and have a more personalized and customized approach. So she is, and her team are doing a lot of networking and relationship building with all these potential partners, because it's more about partnerships than just going through applications for a grant. Because she said most of the important and interesting projects need more money that they can do through their actual grant process. Voila.
Thank you, Hannah, for wearing two hats. Do we have more group? Trying to see. Okay. I think that that's all the group, I believe. Okay, someone is raising hand. Miriam, are you raising your hand? Do you want to? You can unmute yourself and speak, or type in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Hi everyone. This is Mariam. I actually wanted to see if we could hear Toki's perspective, because while we were in the group, she actually did mention that they do not seek for funds, but they do help clients to get funding for their businesses. So it would be nice to actually hear. I am actually interested to hear how they do that, because that would then sort of put them on the other side of the room, where if we wanted to contract them for a funding process, she is now acting like a consultant and helping me to get a fund for a project for my business, sort of. Yeah, so I don't know if you would allow that, and if she would be willing to share her story with us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't get the name of the person. Who did you say?
Okay, that'll be Toki Mabogunke.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Toki, can you unmute yourself and? Is she still in the room?
Toki is not here.
Okay, I think she left. Yeah, basically, I think she works for which organization? Let me see if there's someone else in the room I can pick from. Does she work for ACTS Foundation?
No, she's the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, she left. But Miriam, maybe I can, after this, you can reach out to me and I can maybe make a connection for you if you want to have a conversation with her on that.
Okay, thank you. She's somebody that is actually very well done to Faith Foundation.
Okay.
So yes, we could actually just take that offline. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I feel that it's going to be does anybody have anything to share around the best practice, how we can improve our fundraising processes? Like I said earlier, when we started, this is just a beginning of conversation starter, a platform for us to learn from one another. We all do fundraising differently, but the more we can find opportunity to share, to learn from one another, the better we are going to become. There's nobody that can say this is the holy grail of fundraising. But the better we have opportunity to share, the better we all become. So does anybody have anything you want to share in all this process and how we can improve our process, fundraising process in the last couple of minutes we have? Anybody? All right.
Hello, Tunji. Just maybe I'll just take a minute or two. This is Ndifeke.
Thank you.
From ACT Foundation. Just to say that, and just to buttress something that Anna had said when she was speaking earlier on, fundraising is about relationship. It's about building a relationship. I think a lot of us just try the cold calling or just applying for different things. A lot of people, even when it doesn't necessarily align with what they do, but because you're desperate for funds, you just apply. And you don't do the work of trying to build a relationship. So one of the things that we are doing internally is setting up a relationship management platform. So we started with Excel, now we've graduated to a different platform where we are tracking at what point and are we at with every relationship that we have. So for example, we are part of ANDE, and ANDE introduces us to a particular organization, right? We are documenting that. It's not just an email, a conversation that we have one-off and we don't think anything's going to come out of it and we just dump that relationship. So we're kind of documenting that this is where we are at this point. And periodically we are having conversations, just checking up with the individual within that organization, just so that we keep the conversation lines open. That for us, I think, has helped us in pushing to the next level of some conversations. Some conversations we started 2-3 years ago, and now they are becoming a relationship where something is going to come out of it. So I think it's important that we build those relationships. You can apply for grants randomly and you get, as I said in my group, over 70% of the people that apply and get grants from our foundation, we do not know them. However, there's an opportunity for people to even build a relationship with us outside of just the grant, so they can even understand our processes and use that to then go and prepare to apply for a grant with our foundation. But that doesn't usually happen. So I think just documenting and that entire process that you put in place, you get introduced to somebody, you document it, you reach out to them, you have like a database where they are on, at what level are you with them, how are you engaging them, what do you plan to say to them in under 2-3 months. It kind of keeps that interaction and helps them when you come to them for something, they're able to speak to you a bit more openly.
Wow.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think you wrapped it up very well. Thank you so much for that. So relationship building, you can't overstate that. And I think for some, I'm sure somebody is saying, okay, what about me that I don't even know the people that I want to build a relationship with? Like someone said, I think there is a law, that the rule that says you are 4 people away from the president of your country or anywhere. So sometimes you just need to know someone that knows someone that you need to connect with. And like I said earlier, don't start with the ask. It's always good to start first with learning about the person. What are their challenges? What are they going through? I mean, what are they trying to achieve? Understand their vision, attend their events, send reports to them, connect people to them that maybe might be helpful to them. That way you build that relationship and you are in their face and they know you, they see you as a resource. And when the opportunity comes, they will have trusted you that, oh, we know this person, we know what she does, and we know what she can deliver. I think Toki is back. Toki, while you were disconnected, someone asked that you share a very good perspective in your group conversation about on fundraising. Miriam, do you want to restate your question again so that Toki can quickly give feedback on that and we can wrap up?
Oh, yes, that's fine. Toki, so I was saying that in our group, you had mentioned that you really do not do fundraising for your organization, but you do help clients to look at the process of fundraising, help them like a consultant, help them with the process and all of that. So I was wondering if you would like to share that with us, because this sort of now puts you in the other side of the room where you're like the consultant consulting for your clients who needs the funds, and we are like the clients needing the funds. We are all looking at our own perspective from like one side of the room, while you on the other side. It'd be nice to now see your perspective as to how you help clients to then get funding for their businesses and all of that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. And sorry, Zoom booted me out. Luckily, I'm back in. So I have 2 caps here. So I have the cap working as a business development consultant, and the other one being president of the LCCI. So as a consultant, and finding that through these parts of the workshops, that a lot of what I have experienced is being validated. So yes, it's true. Many of those looking for money are desperate for money. And I actually comes out of the fact that someone already said it already, that there's not a lot of funds that are available here. So foundation that's critical, and they are bombarded by applications, by the way, because there's so few sources. So most of the funding comes from outside of Africa. So in being desperate, what most NGOs do is that they fail to have a long-term or even a medium-term vision of their. They are always bending and flexing to fit the goals or objectives, which means that from one funding engagement to the next, they themselves and our organization are something different and don't really stand for very much. That's one scenario. Another scenario is the fact that yes, a lot of organizations don't really understand that at the end of the day, you are dealing with people, and that it's all in relationships. I also think, and I can only speak for Nigeria, that because of the economic situation of the country, people are very short-term thinkers and they're very short-term builders. And so if they do not get a microwave solution right now, they do not have the patience to follow through, because building relationships, of course, and steadying that platform from which you could get the funds you want is a lot of work. Having that medium term to long term vision is also a lot of work. And I feel that those things play a really key part in any kind of fundraising that you want to do. The other one from the heart of the organization, like the Lagos Chamber, is that within that organization, there is a department that deals with fundraising, and that's our research and advocacy department. And this is because for any funding that we seek, we believe in evidence-based advocacy. And so we usually do the surveys and the research or whatever data is required to make the case for what we want to do. And we take the relationship building quite seriously. So with funders at the chamber, they actually come to us with ideas, and we sit and talk about it and design it together. So I think my perspective is this, that for all of you who want to raise funds and haven't really had the opportunity for this building of relationships, please do. What comes out of building the relationships is that the funders will refer you to other funders, particularly when they know a funder that really fits you like a glove, you know? The second thing is some of the technical assistance that they give, that which may not be money, but it's really very valuable to your organization and the growth of your organization. The third thing is that they can sometimes serve as your referees when you're trying to make the case to the value that you've been delivering on your vision and mission and objectives, and your funders will step up on your behalf to make it possible for you to even grow your funding. Because apart from raising funds, you want to keep growing the opportunity to raise funds and get bigger and bigger and bigger tickets and do more and more and more things. Maybe I should stop there.
Wow, thank you so much, Toki. The voice was going in and out, but very valuable point that you shared there. A lot of people start raising funds when they are in the desperate mode, and they are short-term thinking. They want to quickly get results. So that is really very on point. As relationship, you have to, for fundraising, you need to have a medium-term goal, you need to have a long-term goal, and you need to be patient and build towards it without being in a hurry to quickly get money to survive now. So thank you so much for everyone that has shared. This is my ideal, what's it called, ANDE event, where the participants are also the speakers, and we don't just have somebody speaking to everybody. So thank you for Indy, thank you Toki, thank you Miriam, thank you Sioma, thank you Leah, thank you, Tapiwa. And if I didn't mention your name, Joyce, thank you for bringing your best. Thank you for sharing. We are so grateful. I will put a note together for the funding. We had a much larger group last week that attended the workshop, and this one we'll put a note together on our learning. We'll put the recording on our ANDE ACT Foundation dedicated blog page, where we have all the events that is funded by ACT Foundation to help strengthen the ecosystem in this time of COVID. So we'll put the resources there and we'll share with everyone. And I will also encourage you to please go back to the page and check it from time to time and register for upcoming events. We'll continue to stay in touch. And if you please need anything, Joshua, myself, and Confidence, we are in the chapter. Please reach out to us, send a mail to us, even Flora. I'll be happy to help connect to you as and when needed. I'm sorry that we are over by 6 minutes, and we apologize again for the Zoom hackers that enter for like 1 minute to disrupt our meetings. Thank Confidence for taking care of that. I really look forward to having you all again. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Flora, our speakers. We are really grateful. I really look forward to having you all in our next event. Thank you, and please have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.